B2B webinars are tough. I get it. I've been there. I've done them. Wrangling SMEs, making sure that everything is set up perfectly with your registration, with your nurture sequence, all the things that go around it to help promote and then get people to the live showing and then get people to watch the recorded content. It's tough. It's tough because nobody taught you how to do it right. So what I'm going to do today is run you through 3 things with a little help of Notion AI. And we're going to just focus on those 3 things in this video, but I guarantee you will walk away knowing exactly what to do with your next B2B webinar to make it absolutely fully rewarding for you and for your organization.
So here we are inside my Notion, and you can see I've written this article a little bit earlier in the year, but what I did was ask Notion AI a question. As I've said, I love using Notion. It's a fantastic tool, helps me organize all my thoughts and ideas, but when they added AI, and it's a version of ChatGPT 4, it just was a game changer for me. So wanted to ask Notion AI a question, a specific question. What are the benefits of using webinars in B2B marketing? Well, it gave me 3 options here, and I think they're interesting. They've got some definitely good thoughts, some that perhaps aren't as well thought out, but it is kind of the traditional things that you hear about webinars in B2B. So let's dive into that. So the first piece of advice that Notion AI gave is webinars allow for direct engagement with your target audience, providing an opportunity for open dialogue and real-time feedback. Yes, they do. You got to structure it properly, though. And a lot of people have moved to a pre-recorded segment in doing their webinars because live webinars don't pull the same kind of audience as they used to. But I think there's some reasons for that. So we'll get into that in just a minute. The second thing that Notion AI provided, webinars can position your company as a thought leader in your industry by offering valuable and unique content. Again, yes, that is a true statement, but only if you do that. Not everything that we put into a webinar is thought leadership, nor should it be, but it should always offer value. That's the thing that we often forget about. We want to make sure that there is valuable information. And I'm going to go a step further and say actionable, valuable information. Because if you can't take action on it, you're not going to take action on it. And if this is new, if it's a new concept or something you're unfamiliar with as the audience member, and you're trying to figure out, well, okay, that's good information, but how would I do that? That's our job. That's our job, is literally to go through all of our content. And if at any point it's like, yeah, but how? We need to answer that question. So that's one way that I would go a little bit deeper on point number 2 here. Make sure the information in your webinar is valuable, but also actionable. Make sure it's something that they can do. And if it's not something they can do now, maybe there are things that they need to do first. Tell them what those things are, and then show them if you can. I'm going to boil this down. Webinars can position your company as a thought leader in your industry if you create actionable, valuable, and unique content. Unique can be something that we take away in another discussion, but if I like to think about it in simple terms, if I see what my competition is doing, I'm going to try and learn what's working, if anything, and then I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to present it as if it were my own information, because it is. I'm the one telling it. Even if it's someone else's concept or idea, or your product team, or it's your product that you're focusing on, or the services, that's fine. But do it from your perspective. You as the subject matter expert or the person putting this together. That's how you make it unique. All right, now point number 3, recorded webinars offer long-term value as they can be repurposed into other content formats such as blog posts, social media snippets, and email campaigns. Notion AI, my hat's off to you. That's fantastic. Yes, we want to repurpose this content. We also need to think about, what does that mean? So how do we repurpose things? Well, one thing that I always love to go to is creating snippets. So what are snippets? They're literally just smaller, bite-sized or snackable pieces of a larger video clip. So this could be a webinar, this could be an interview that you're doing. You can take this tactic and or principle and apply it to several different things, which is very, very nice. So the key questions from your webinar that should be stated and answered to live the old mantra, demonstrate you can help someone by actually helping them. These are great snippets because they can oftentimes be an encapsulated piece of value for your audience that then you just do a little bit of tweaking to and invite the viewers to then watch the full webinar. So if we move forward here, using these things for promotion, I'll get to the image here on screen in just a second, but I want to really start with just organic social. So one of the things that I think a lot of times we forget about is that people are on organic social all the time, whether that's LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, it does not matter. But people are on the platforms all the time. What does that mean though? It means that throughout the day, any given person will likely be on at least one of those platforms once or twice. So we want to make sure that we are providing them the opportunity to see these things and get more traffic, hopefully qualified traffic, to our webinar. So, we can do that in a couple different ways. Obviously, just posting about it, yes, but don't be afraid to repost about them as well. Don't be afraid to create multiple clips from your main webinar content and then share them consistently on a regular basis. Consistently on a regular basis. I'm going to say that twice because I think it really bears repeating. This is not a one and done thing. You put a lot of time into producing your content for the webinar and running the webinar. So why wouldn't we put a lot of time and energy into promoting that and getting more out of it? One of the things that I ran into in a previous job was we just weren't getting a lot of live webinar attendees. So we shifted a lot to using webinars through content syndication. We did this for a couple of reasons. One, it was kind of a guaranteed way to get viewers of the webinar. You're literally paying per lead when you do content syndication. The other was we could produce the content on our timetable. So it wasn't a live thing, it was a recorded piece of content. And then we had time to actually pull the snippets out and use them for organic promotion and use them inside of emails that are driving to the registration page where maybe we have a snippet of here's a taste of what you're going to get inside the webinar. You can go a bit further with those things, but those are the ones that I really, really like to focus on. So how can you do more? Well, now for the image on screen here, The Diary of a CEO is a very, very well-known show. It's very popular. You can see here on this channel, they've actually created a whole channel dedicated to these clips, these snippets that they pulled from their main webinar content. Now, this is incredibly smart because many of these clips are 5 to 20 minutes long. So they're still relatively long videos, but they are an encapsulated point. And if you would like to learn more about the person that Stephen Bartlett is interviewing, then you can go watch the full video on the main channel. So this is it's more of a tactical in the weeds how to do it, but the principle is exactly the same as, okay, we have a full length piece of video that we want people to see. We want them to commit to it. So we're going to take some of the gold nuggets, some of these gems that we find within the webinar or the long piece of video, and we're going to cut it up into bite-sized chunks so that we can use them as teasers, we can use them as little value bombs, and the biggest thing here is that you don't miss out on an opportunity to use the content you've already created. So this is huge with repurposing. You can also host these video clips on private content networks. So in a past life working in the tech industry, we chose to use a company called BrightTalk. And BrightTalk is now part of the TechTarget family. So we got sort of dual or triple purpose out of leveraging BrightTalk to do this. But they're essentially a private video hosting service that is a content network. So anyone in the tech industry could go and sign up as a user. It's absolutely free. You just give them a little bit of personal information, but there's no cost to use it. And you get access to full-length webinars. You get access to potentially video clips or snippets like these from those webinars in a more curated manner. And you can leverage the same kind of techniques that you do with YouTube using SEO and linking of things together to get more viewers, to get more exposure to your content. So that was one thing that we found really, really helpful. Highly recommend to find those in your industry, whatever industry you're in. You may not have them, that's fine, but get close, and if you don't, that's cool. But if you do have them, just see how much it is to start being a part of the network, sharing content. I will say that BrightTalk was a little pricey. It was about $20K, $25K for the year. So, not everybody has that budget, and that's totally fine. Lastly here, I want to make sure that whatever we do from a marketing lens, from a content specifically lens, we want to share these things with sales. Ideally, we have produced the webinar that can be used as a sales tool. And so each little snippet that we pull out could be, especially those where we're answering questions, those should go into a sales motion. Sellers should have access to those so that they can share them with their prospects. They can share them with their network, just as larger value bombs for a larger group of people, rather than being super specific. But that super specificity can come in really, really handy when we move forward and say, I need to target XYZ company with this kind of message. Do we have any webinar content or snippets that I can leverage in that push to bring this prospect into a state where they are much more willing to do business with us? That's why it's so important. They've got to have tools. They've got to understand the value of those tools too. So making your relationships strong with sales and sales leadership, that can go a very long way. So lastly, I'm just going to wrap this up. We've gone over these 3 tips. I ended specifically on the repurposing just because I think that is one of the most powerful things you can do. And it really bleeds completely into your strategy. So as you are strategizing, how am I going to do this webinar? What kind of webinar do I want to do? Then you need to write all those things down and work from that as your starting point. Because if you know you're going to do a webinar that is informative, educated, and really challenges people to do the thing that you're teaching them to do, then you want to make sure that they know how to do it. You want to make sure that they have the opportunities to see the webinar, and you want to be able to pull some of those things out so you can use them as teasers, so you can use them as snippets in an on-demand format, or just an ongoing motion that's kind of always on running. Each one of your webinars could be a lead generating mechanism or asset for a year or more, depending on your industry. If things don't change a lot, maybe 3 or 4 years. If things do change a lot, like in the tech industry, maybe you can just repurpose some of those things as you go forward, as technology changes, as new opportunities come to light. So it's never going to die on the vine, but it will if you don't actually try and promote it. So I will leave you with that. Make sure that you get as much as you can out of the content that you produce, and make sure that your audience has the opportunities to actually find it. Kind of important. Thank you so much. If you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Get Quirked, please drop a comment below, or you can email me, connect@getquirked.co. Couldn't afford the M. I look forward to seeing you next time.